Good morning. This is like my fifth attempt at this video about the Great Depression and the New Deal. I think I should speak louder. That's one thing I learned. I should speak a little bit clearer. Good morning, everyone. Here we are yet again. U.S. history. It's never over. It's still here. As William Faulkner, the American novelist, said, the past is never past. The past is not dead. It's not even past. It's not even the past. Civil war, racism, those aren't over. Who gets to vote? That question's not over. Who gets to form a union? That question's not over. 1920s, 2020s, wanga wanga wah. Here we are, 100 years later, 1929. Let's back up from 1929 real quick. 1890s. Remember the late 1800s? We talked about boom and bust. Boom, the economy's doing so great. Look at it go. Bust. Crashes. 1929. Bust. The biggest bust ever. The Great Depression, where overnight people lose their jobs. Overnight banks close. Businesses close. Money is just disappears. And because in the 1920s we had been in this part of U.S. history in which the belief system was that we are all individuals and we must pick ourselves up by the bootstraps. And to give help, if the federal government were to give help to American citizens, it would make them, it would hurt their moral fiber. It would hurt them to help somebody. It would make them dependent on you. We don't want that. We don't want people to be dependent on the federal government. We don't want to help people like that. That theory, that ideology, still exists today. And it's still a battle today. And we got to see that ideology, that system of thinking, that we can believe in the business, we can believe in the markets, we can believe in that those will fix things, and it's up to us as individuals to either help each other, but the federal government should just stay out of it. We got to see that in the first 3 years of the Depression, because the Depression starts in 1929 with Herbert Hoover. Remember, what country has a statue honoring Herbert Hoover? Our country does. Behind the Capitolio, you can see a statue of Herbert Hoover, considered one of the worst presidents of U.S. history. Still honored here because he visited us. The Depression hits 1929. Banks disappear. Jobs disappear. And Herbert Hoover, the president, was like, well, come on, people. Work harder. And that's it. It's really about all he says. It's just like, the business community will figure it out. You know, can't do anything else. That doesn't go so well. That produces long lines of people trying to get a piece of bread. That produces people losing their homes. The homeless population skyrockets. Businesses gone with no real hope of returning. That all is kind of detailed in the first chapter that you read. The second half of the story is what happens in 1932. In 1932, there's an election, and Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Proxima Parada, Roosevelt, he becomes the president. And he has a completely different ideology. And his belief is the belief that the federal government should use its power, should use its ability to print money, to print some money. Hire a bunch of people. Say, hey, you know what? We need some work done. We're going to hire you to go do it. We're going to invent jobs. We're going to create federal jobs. And there's all kinds of different jobs created. From building pounds in parks, to building post offices, to painting murals, to writing plays, to building dams, to bringing electricity to areas of the country that have not seen electricity yet. It's this massive investment of money and time by the federal government to make the economy keep moving. And at the time, there's a lot of resistance by the Republican Party against it, saying no, the federal government has no place in this kind of thing. Let's jump to yesterday. Yesterday, it was announced that 6 million more people in the United States applied for unemployment insurance. Last week was 3 million. A week ago, when 3 million people in the United States said, I've lost my job, I want some unemployment insurance, there never had been that many people, not even during the Great Depression. Why is that? Why is it that it's a record number of people asking for unemployment insurance? It's because during the Great Depression, there was no unemployment insurance. You lost your job, sorry, you lost your job. When the Great Depression hit, your Social Security checks, well, you didn't have any. There was no Social Security checks. Your food stamps, SNAP, there was no SNAP. There was none of that. And so in 1929, when the economy drops out and people are hungry, there is no safety net. The safety net is the idea that in society, you've got protections in place for when things go wrong and that people can be and not suffer. And they can eat and they can take care of their homes and their families. I'm about to sneeze. Off camera. There we go. I hope I got that off camera. As you can, yeah, okay. All of those things, not SNAP. SNAP doesn't come till later. But unemployment, Social Security, those get introduced by Franklin Delano Roosevelt in the New Deal in the 1930s, and we still have them today. Even though there are still people today who think, oh, we shouldn't have those. That would be wrong. That's wrong for the federal government to do that kind of thing. And so the debates that they had in the 1930s are the same debates that we're having today. Luckily for the country, Franklin Delano Roosevelt and the Democrats won those debates, and we have Social Security and we have unemployment insurance. There are a lot of things that boom and bust, boom and bust, boom and bust. That was a part of a laissez-faire, nice little French word, laissez-faire economy in which the federal government was like, you guys taking business can just take care of itself. In the 1930s, in the New Deal, it's like, you know what? Business needs someone to look over it. And so there was new laws requiring companies to actually to honestly report how much money they have. They didn't have to do that before. They could say whatever they wanted to. There was a biggie is that the federal government now guarantees the money in the banks. When you put your money in the bank, back in 1929, the banks failed. You go to the bank and say, hey, I need my money so I can buy some food. And they're like, sorry, we don't have any more. We're closed. You're out of luck. You've lost all of your life savings. Because there was no guarantees. That's changed now. There is now laws passed by the New Deal and Franklin Delano Roosevelt that the federal government will protect your money in the bank. Because when you take your money to the bank, I'd get my check, put my $600 in the bank. That $600 doesn't stay there. It gets lent to my neighbor who wants to buy a car. It gets lent to somebody who's buying a house, somebody who's starting their beauty salon. The money is moving around. It's not sitting there in the bank. And so if everyone shows up on the same day and says, hey, I want my money, there's no money there. So I asked you guys to watch a few things, because why not? One of them was a song by Woody Guthrie about the Dust Bowl. Oh, Jesus. In the middle of the Great Depression, everyone's lost a job. Everything's gone to hell in the economy. A huge drought happens in the Midwest, where in the Great Plains, where most of the food is grown. for the states. And it is not just a drought, but also it is intense agriculture, industrialization, right? The agriculture has been industrialized, and now people are farming the land harder than they've ever done it before, and that combined with the drought creates this cataclysmic event in which the land just turns to dust. Houses are buried in dust, and this prompts a new migration, just like the Great Migration, which was African Americans moving from the south to the north. The migration during the Dust Bowl is the people from the center of the country, from Oklahoma, moving to California. California grows immensely during this stretch. Woody Guthrie, folk singer, he also wrote the song, This Land Is Your Land. This land is your land. This land is my land. I can almost remember the lyrics. But big classic, like We're All in This Together song. Another song I sent you guys to listen to was Brother, Can You Spare a Dime? Anthem of the Great Depression. I built those railroads that made them run. I built those towers, and now I got nothing. Can you spare a dime? Can you give me a little change? That song was sung in the version I sent to you by Al Jolson, who, my cat is saying hello, Al Jolson, who is the first person to speak in the movies. In the movies, you can now speak. Your words are connected to the action of the film. And a horrible little side note about that, just as no great American accomplishment can be not tarnished by the stain of racism, the first movie that he's in, he appears in blackface and sings, Mammy, how I love ya, how I love ya, which is such an iconic moment. I've never seen the movie, but I've seen the Bugs Bunny version of it. I sent you another movie to watch, just a clip of some Busby Berkeley movies. Busby Berkeley was a choreographer and a director who just made crazy. You watched it. Tell me you watched it. It's crazy. People were in the mood for just something fun, and so they go to movies. 5 cents, sit there all day, watch a movie, watch a cartoon, watch a travel log about something else going on in the world, and just big crazy movies about people dancing and a way to escape. And then the last thing I sent you to watch was Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. You may have seen little tiny Mickey Mouses in there because the Walt Disney, before he started Disney, worked for that company, and he drew little tiny Mickey Mouses. And that character, Oswald the Rabbit, who battles depression with the help of Franklin Delano Roosevelt and confidence. Confidence. You've got to have confidence. Anyways, have confidence, says Jenny the cat and I. I'm going to set up the test. It's going to be about the chapters in the book. It's going to be, I'm definitely going to ask you more about the New Deal than the actual Depression. And who knows what other surprises I'll throw in there. Blah. All right. Have a good weekend. Bye. Bye, Jenny. Bye.